for having me tonight. It's an honor. I'm so excited. I will start talking to you a little bit about northern France, about the region of Normandy. You know that in Normandy we had the Normans or the Northmen, which were the descendants of the Scandinavians, which were pirates and traders called Vikings, who ruled the region until the midpoint of the 13th century. Some of the most well-known Normans were William the Conqueror, for example, who invaded England in 1066, and several kings of England were of Norman blood, like Henry I, Henry II, or Richard the Lionheart. Here we have two itineraries, Paris and Normandy, from Paris back to Paris, and our new itinerary, which is the impressions of the Seine and Paris. In these itineraries, among other things, you will learn about recent history, let's say about the Allied invasion of Normandy, the D-Day in 1944. And on a more colorful note, you will learn about the Valley of the Impressionists, for example. You know that Normandy is the birthplace of two art movements, the Gothic architecture with the famous cathedral builders, and Impressionists like Claude Monet. Not only him, but we have many avant-garde painters of 1870s until 1880s that came to Normandy because it was such a beautiful place to paint the landscapes, the changing lights, concentrating along the Seine and also on the Norman coast. I have to tell you that this itinerary is a dream for photographers. And this region has a very green landscape, weather-like can be compared to the one of England. Therefore, we have excellent dairy products, excellent milk, excellent cheese. The best cheese of the country can be found in Normandy. You know that in France, you have the largest consumers of cheese in the world. It's really amazing. You have around 1,200 different varieties of cheese, and France makes nearly 1 million tons of cheese a year. So here we find, talking about gastronomy, very rich meals full of butter, full of cream. And now I would like you to, Sebastian, please continue and take us a little bit deeper on the most important excursions that we have at Amawaterways.
Sure. But you forgot one famous Norman, me. I mean, I'm from there as well. So, of course, everything what Mariana just said is absolutely true, and I think the variety, that's something that's something that people will really love about not only Normandy. I mean, of course, it is great there, and as a native of Normandy, I could not say the contrary. But in all these itineraries in France, you will see that there are interests for everyone. I mean, of course, you cannot go to Normandy without talking about the landing beaches of World War II, of the Neptune operation, of the Overlord operation. And we spend an entire day there taking our guests in small groups at different paces, because that's also very important to make sure that everybody enjoys this day at their own pace, that they can see what they want to see at their own pace. We will go to the Colville Cemetery, which is the most important cemetery in the area, very close to Omaha Beach. And we have also different tours, because I really hope that tonight we also have some of our Canadian guests who are who are watching. Maybe it's a little bit later, but maybe also some of our British guests might be watching as well. And we have different sectors. You know that these beaches were separated in sectors. So we have made these excursions for you so that you can go where your interest really is. We have US sectors, we have Canadian and British sectors. So that's an impressive, a very emotional day for everybody. That's what I've heard all the time since we've started. And it is really something that you don't forget. I've had the chance to have with me on cruises World War II veterans who had landed on the beach. Actually one of them on Omaha Beach and another one in Sainte-Mère-l'Église. So he was in the parachutes. He was arriving in the second wave. And being able to talk with these folks is something that you don't forget. I actually even brought them to the stage to share things with our guests. But if we look at the next slide, Anka, please, we have, as Mariana just mentioned, the Impressionist movement, the Modernist movement. I mean, we had a lot of painters, Cézanne, Boudin, Monet, Renoir, Van Gogh, you name them, Camille Pissarro as well. And they came to this region because, as Mariana just said, you have a lot of different lights. Where we have our colleagues here, our Captain Geoffrey and Wade and Leo, they're on actually the bridge of the Japanese garden. So that's in Claude Monet's garden in Giverny. And this is something that you want to see as well. Whether you are an artist or not, and because artist, I don't consider myself an artist per se, but when you're there, you understand what you've seen. You understand a little bit more what Claude Monet was doing. He painted the water lilies. He painted 250 of them. One of the biggest one is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's a 12 meters, so we're talking about a 35 feet long painting on 6 feet tall. He painted them all the time. You can find them in the Orangerie Museum in Paris, in Marmottan, in many places. And you could really see, depending on the season, the temperature, the light, that there were a lot of changes. And this is really a beautiful experience. You spend an entire afternoon there in his house, and you really get to learn, because we have absolutely amazing guides. The guides also make the tours. This I must tell you. And they love to transmit that. It is a beautiful tour. But as I mentioned the Impressionism. There was also a person of importance who many people know in the Netherlands, but actually he's buried just outside Paris, 30 kilometers outside Paris, with his brother Theo, and that's Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, as we pronounce it in English. But Vincent spent actually a bit more than 2 months at the end of his life, the 70 last days of his life. He was in an inn called l'Auberge Ravoux, which we will take you, and you will visit, and you will see where Vincent was actually the most productive. That's when he was really at the top of his art. And he painted in these 70 days, 70 paintings. He sold one to his brother Theo. These are these little details that will make things absolutely amazing for you every day on these itineraries. And of course, we have also at Amawaterways, for those of you who are familiar, you will know that we have the land packages. For those of you who join us for the first time, that's a very important part. And these land packages are very important. I consider it part of the cruise. Why? Because your cruise manager will be there as well. The cruise manager will be with you from the moment you arrive until the moment you really leave at the end of the post-land extension. And this one in Paris, like all others, allows what? It allows you to beat the jet lag. It allows you to really start enjoying where you are. You're in another country. You get to know your future fellow travelers on the ship, and you have the time to enjoy the areas that you will see. That's, I think, something that is very important on river cruises. You will have the time, and you will be able to enjoy really all the places that you have. We will take you to very exquisite accommodation, because the experience you will have on the ship should also be reflected at the hotel. We will take you to the Maison Astor. That's this hotel that you see here. It used to be what we call a hotel particulier. So it was a hotel, but for one family. It was built at the very beginning of the 20th century by a very rich American person, actually, John Jacob Astor. And just one little anecdote about him. He passed away when the Titanic went down, because he was on the Titanic. But that's just a completely different story. But you will stay there. The Maison Astor is located just between the Eiffel Tower and the Opera, so really in the heart of the city. And if we look at the next slide, you will see this beautiful landmark, which you will see, of course, when you will be there. L'Opéra Garnier here on the right, really a masterpiece of architecture and also of sound. If you have the chance one day to go to an opera in there, please take the chance. Go there and do it. It is absolutely amazing. Now, we have also a very special way to show you Paris once you're on land. And we will take you to l'Atelier des Lumières. L'Atelier des Lumières means the lights workshop. This is a movement, and these workshops have been launched a few years ago. And it started in a quarry, actually, in Provence. And now they have this beautiful place in the heart of Paris as well, where you have projections of paintings. And this is also with music. And you really walk at the heart of the paintings, how the painters were thinking. And when you look at the size of the people, you can see their shadows there. it is really gigantic and you're really immersed.
The thing I like most about river cruising is that it's an opportunity to see so much. You dock right in the city centres and you can see so much and just stroll about and see the city.
With river cruising, as opposed to ocean cruising, you can spend a whole week just in one country, and you can also spend 1 week visiting 5 countries.
This is our first trip on the river, any ship line.
For me, it's the perfect way to relax and also see some of the world.
Our first river cruise was an Amawaterways River Cruise, and it was totally superior in every way.
I would say it's been more than what I expected.
There's so much on offer for the whole family, not just for mum and dad, but for everybody. We've been biking, we have walked, we have been on tours.
My favourite tour this week was going to Giverny to see Monet's gardens. And when we got there, we just had time just to stroll around the gardens and really take it in at our own pace. We spent a long time just really taking in the whole garden, kind of the atmosphere, and you really saw what Monet would have seen when he was painting.
I find what separates Amawaterways from their competition is the little things, such as the events that they do in different ports. We just came from Normandy. There was a special ceremony. It was absolutely spectacular. The competition isn't doing that.
There are 1 or 2 things that I particularly love about cruising with Amawaterways. The staff and the attention to detail is exceptional. Everyone is very friendly. They cannot do enough to make your cruise special.
And I think that's because of the ownership of the company. I think they feel that they work for a family or with a family and they're part of something bigger.
It has been wonderful being on board the Amawaterways. We have had wine tastings, wine pairings, excursions, beautiful weather, sailing down the River Seine. And I look forward so much to returning.